Hello everybody and welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to be doing my final 2022, I don't know why I just said it that way, 2022 Senate election prediction. The midterm election is tomorrow, so I'm uploading my final Senate prediction tonight. Also in this video you'll get my final House prediction. Now it's not going to be the map, it's just going to be the estimated number of seats I believe each party will get, because if I did the whole map it's just going to take, I couldn't fit it inside of a single video. And, I think it's just simpler to just show the numbers rather than get into specifics about each race. But the Senate, obviously, there's 35 seats up. I can talk about them. Before I begin the video, please make sure to go ahead and subscribe to the YouTube channel. We are getting closer and closer to 700 subscribers, so that is greatly appreciated. If you enjoy, please hit the subscribe button. Anyway, let's get right into our safe Democrat states. To start off, so the first safe Democrat state be Ron Wyden in Oregon and California with David Padilla, Hawaii going through there, Maryland with Chris Van Hollen, and the state of Vermont, getting the Democrats to 41 Senate races. I believe those are the ones that I'm supposed to characterize as safe. Safe Republican races, this will be Idaho. I'm going to put Alaska as a safe Republican race. I think regardless of who wins, it'll either be Murkowski or Kelly Tshibaka, and both of those are Republicans. The Democrat really doesn't have a shot at winning in the ranked choice voting system. There's really no shot for the Democrat. Continuing to go through the rest of the country, Republicans are going to win a lot of these states easily and be able to focus, of course, a lot more of their attention on other races. I'll leave Missouri out of it. I do believe it could possibly get into the likely margin. I want to be as accurate as possible with my margins here. But that leaves the Republicans at 42 seats. Likely Republican seats, I believe that the first likely Democrat seat will be Chuck Schumer in New York. New York actually has narrowed up in the governor's race very much, but also in the New York Senate race. Let me just go over the Senate map for RCP. You can see that Chuck Schumer is not up as comfortably as he was previously. He, in the aggregate, is only up 15.4 points. As I said, he's facing a black opponent, Joe Pinion, very, attacking him on crime, attacking him on a lot of the positions that he's taken that's led to issues with crime, with the economy in New York. Schumer's only up 15.4 in the aggregate. He'll still win, but look back in 2016, he won by 43 points. In 2010, he won by 32 points. So he used to be winning by double the amount that he's winning now, and especially in the governor's race, you can see that is a toss-up. But Schumer will win by a likely margin in Connecticut. I believe Richard Blumenthal is the one who's up. Could be wrong, though. He will win by a likely margin. I don't know why it's in the lean category. He'll probably end up winning by likely. Tammy Duckworth in Illinois will also win by a likely margin. I'm going to leave Washington out of it, but I do believe that Michael Bennet will probably – actually, no, I'm going to leave Colorado out of it as well. I'll put that in the lean category just because I'm going to be accounting into the fact that it's a red wave year. You do see the polls narrowing in Colorado. Not many have come out of that state. Of course, the Data for Progress poll had Bennet up 7, but Trafalgar had him up 2. Obviously, both of those, that's in their respective category, Democrat pollster, Republican pollster. But I do believe it could possibly get below 5 points. I'm going to leave that for the lean category, but you could argue likely as well. Both of those are valid in my mind, correct? But anyway, likely Republican states would be Kevin Stitt in Missouri, Chuck Grassley in Iowa, J.D. Vance in Ohio, Marco Rubio in Florida, Ted Budd in North Carolina, Mike Lee in Utah. And that's about it for the likely Republican states. That gets them up to 48 seats. Now, previously, Ohio, possibly the Democrats thought was competitive. Tim Ryan versus J.D. Vance. However, Vance has taken a really commanding lead in the race. It slightly narrowed up. All of these polls with Ryan up 3, I don't really think are ever close. But, there was only Vance up 3, up 2. Ties. People were a bit concerned in mid-October. However, Vance has now really taken the commanding lead up 10. Even the Democrat poll was up 10, 6, 5, 9. Those all characterized for me as a likely state. Aside from the one poll with up 5, all of them have shown he's above 5, which is in the likely category. Also, Ted Budd has begun to increase his lead significantly. I think he'll probably win by similar amounts that Richard Burr won in 2016, possibly even more. But you saw the race was closer the end of September, mid-October, really. And now Budd has continued to increase his lead as the midterms approach. And tomorrow being, of course, the deciding factor. Florida with Marco Rubio. Val Demings never really had a shot in Florida, I would say. And even with Evan McMullen versus Mike Lee in Utah, Mike Lee will still win by a likely margin. It was a good strategy because Utah, it's an interesting state because it's a heavily Mormon state, and a lot of the previous establishment Mormon Republican politicians that were Republicans, of McMullen and Mitt Romney, have kind of led to Utah being a much more of a being more of a state that has left-leaning Republicans like Mitt Romney, and like their governor Spencer Cox. They kind of, they don't like Mike Lee as much. He's more to the right. I wouldn't say he's like especially a right-wing Republican, but they are playing this game where they're running the independent Evan McConnell against him. It still won't work out. I still think Lee will win by a likely margin. However, it is interesting to look at the politics of that state because those Republicans are very different from many other Republicans across the country. Anyway, let's head into our lean Democrat states. First lean Democrat state will be the state of Colorado. Michael Bennet will win in Colorado. That's probably the most secure state for the Democrats out of all of these toss-up states. You can see all of the green states in RCP that they characterize as toss-up. I characterize as toss-up as well. Colorado is probably the most secure for the Democrats. Republicans, I'll go through the most secure for that one. But another lean Democrat state will be the state of Washington. Patty Murray actually is somewhat vulnerable given that Washington is supposed to be a pretty solid Democrat state. You could see in 2016, she won by 18. 2010, it was very close. That was a red wave year. We all also headed into a red wave year. The Republicans will probably perform very well. You could see very similarities to 2010. And she's only up 2 in the polls, or up 3 in the polls. That puts her in that lean category, and I'm going to trust these polls. I think that they're pretty accurate. When you go back to 2016 and look at the polls, there wasn't really an aggregate. They were all over the place. She ended up winning by 18 points. It's actually directly in the middle of these last 2 polls. The most accurate poll, I guess, was the University of Washington. I don't think they even conducted a poll this election cycle. So you just kind of have to trust what's going on. I'll say she ends up winning by about 4 points, maybe. Anyway, those are the only lean Democrat states. Let's head into our lean Republican states. The easiest state to win out of the lean Republican states is Wisconsin with Ron Johnson. He has continued to significantly increasing his lead. The new Democrat poll that came out, the pollster that came out had him up 6 points, so he's going to beat Mandela Barnes, very likely in Wisconsin. He's pretty much up in every single poll. Barnes was, of course, up in the beginning, but that's usually what happens. The Democrats up in these toss-up states, and as it gets closer to the election, the Republicans either narrow it up or take the lead, and that's what's happening in Wisconsin. I was saying, people in the beginning, if you go back and watch my original 2022 Senate election predictions, I was saying that Ron Johnson it's not even going to be competitive. He's going to win in Wisconsin. The Republicans should not focus their resources on Wisconsin. They need to focus it on other states. He's popular. He has a Rust Belt appeal. And it never really was an issue for the Republicans. If you go back to my original videos, I was saying that. But anyway, let's continue talking about our lean Republican states. There's actually only one more lean Republican state, and that's the state of Nevada with Adam Laxalt. He's looking like he's definitely going to win this race. I mean, he's the former AG, Catherine Cortez Masto, going back, won by 2.5 in 2016. This is a red wave year. You're going to see the entire nation shift to the right. Who knows how many points? Could be 5, anywhere from 5 to 10 points. If it's upwards of 10, that's going to be seriously a lot of Republican pickups in the House. But nonetheless, in Nevada, he's already up in the polls, 2.7 points. I see him end up winning by about 2 points. I think it's slightly overestimating him. I don't think the insider advantage poll is exactly accurate. I don't think he's up 6 points in Nevada. But I do think he'll probably end up winning 2 to 3 points for Laxalt in Nevada. Anyway, heading into our tilt states. So the remaining states to be called are Arizona, Georgia, and Pennsylvania. Let's actually just do the tilt Republican states first. The first tilt Republican state is Dr. Oz in Pennsylvania. John Fetterman, in my mind, had a very poor performance at the debate. A lot of the momentum has shifted in favor of Oz in Pennsylvania now. He has a very small lead in the spread, of course, but I don't believe that this Marist poll really helped the spread, influence the spread. All of the polls have Oz slightly up, even the Emerson poll. After the debate, of course, I made a video, a few weeks ago talking about how Oz was running a poor campaign. He wasn't attacking John Fetterman on his stances on many issues like incarceration. John Fetterman he wants to relook at the sentences of people like that have committed some of the worst crimes. That could be an issue that he talked about. He did very well at the debate, highlighting those issues, and of course letting John Fetterman speak, which highlighted the fact that he was still recovering from a stroke. But Oz has begun to really show that he's going to win this race. I think it's probably going to be a Democrat governor and a Republican senator in Pennsylvania. Another tilt Republican state is Georgia. Georgia's probably going to go to a runoff because I'm not sure if Herschel Walker's going to break 50% in the original election. But I do see him ending up, defeating Raphael Warnock overall. As I said, or as it's shown, the original polls had the Democrats, mostly up. Warnock was up for a large part of the year, and then finally, as you head into late October, early November, Walker's taking the lead in the majority of polls, and he does look like he's going to win. The October surprise with Walker, we were talking about how he abused his family and whatnot, did not seem to really work in Warnock's favor. I think Walker's probably going to get 49.5% of the vote. Warnock will get 48.5% of the vote, so it'll probably go to a runoff. If he manages to break 50, well, good on him, but I think he'll probably win in a runoff, and I believe that's held in the beginning of January. I'm not sure the exact date, though. So 52 Republicans, though, they're already taking the majority back. But we have two more states to characterize. I'm going to characterize the state of New Hampshire. I think that it's going to slightly tilt in favor of Maggie Hassan. Now, it could very well go to the Republicans. I still don't know how to pronounce the guy's name, Don Boldeau. The most accurate pollster in New Hampshire history, the St. Anselm poll, has Boldeau winning 1 point. That has him winning 1 point. And when you go back throughout all of the elections, that poll has been the best indicator of what is going on. Let's just go to the 2020 RCP map, and we'll go through that poll because that poll really was as accurate as any possible poll. The St. Anselm poll had Biden winning by 8 points in the election. He ended up winning by 7.2 points over Trump in what's it called in the general election. In New Hampshire, the St. Anselm poll had Jeanine Shaheen winning by 15 points. She ended up winning. She ended up overperforming slightly by 0.7 points. So Biden slightly underperformed, Jeanine Shaheen slightly overperformed. Governor's race, I believe this New Hampshire was up. St. Anselm slightly underestimated John Sununu. However, it was the highest out of the recent polls. But just looking at that, the St. Anselm poll is the most accurate. Let's just go to the 2018 RCP, Real Clear Politics Senate map. New Hampshire actually was not up for election. I believe the governorship, though, was, and it was a toss-up. Did St. Anselm have a poll? They didn't. However, that's besides the point. Going back and looking at all of those elections, they had Biden up. Sorry, that's my schoolwork, actually. They had Biden up by 8. He won by 7.2. They had Jeanine Shaheen up 15. She won by 15.7. They have Don Boldeau up 1. I think this was the last poll they're going to conduct. Maybe there will be a poll that comes out tomorrow. I'm not sure. But this is going to be probably the closest race. I wouldn't be surprised if Don Boldeau wins, but I'm going to have to narrowly tilt it in Hassan's favor just because of the fact that she is that New Hampshire. I don't think it. I don't think it. How do I say? I don't think it shifts as the red wave shifts. I don't think that it's going to be influenced as much by the red wave. Hassan is up in pretty much every single other poll beside the Trafalgar poll. Boldeau, if he wins, he'll probably win by about a point, maybe less than a point. But either way, it's going to be tilt in favor of the Democrat or the Republican. And I just wanted to point out this because the St. Anselm poll is the most accurate one. I'm going against it just because, I don't know. I just believe that Maggie Hassan probably will end up narrowly winning this race. It's going to be very close. This is going to be probably the race of the night, probably one of the closest races. But I still have yet to get to the closest race, which is the state of Arizona. And I'm still going to have that tilting in favor of Blake Masters. I'm going to stand by my belief that Blake Masters will win the Arizona Senate race. I have stood by that time and time again. There was a poll out today, probably one of the last Arizona Senate polls, and it was the first ever poll done by the Data for Progress, the Democrat-run polling company, and it had Blake Masters winning against Mark Kelly by 1 point. That is the first ever poll in the history of all of the polls that were conducted in Arizona that had Blake Masters winning this race. As we saw, this election has been narrowing up for some time. And finally, as it's getting to election day, Blake Masters is pretty much on tied with Mark Kelly. He's leading by about 0.6 in the overall aggregate of the polls. But Emerson has it at a tie. Fox 10 has it at a tie. It's an incredibly close race. Blake Masters has run a very good campaign. He did very well at the debates. He actually kind of represents more of a far farther right Republican identity. He's in many ways similar to Carrie Lake. However, Carrie Lake is probably better versed on TV. You know, she worked on the news for a news organization. But I do believe Blake Masters will end up narrowly defeating Mark Kelly. Um, a lot of people don't really think of Kelly, especially in Arizona, as like this astronaut, this nice astronaut who's just going to the Senate and he's just gonna, you know, be like a cool astronaut there. He. I mean, I don't know. I don't even know. But like, I guess that's kind of like his appeal. He's like kind of, he's a guy that anyone can associate themselves with. He was an astronaut in NASA, but he, compared to Kyrsten Sinema, which is what people have been able to do in Arizona, he has been much more to the left on the way he's voted in the Senate. Blake Masters attacked him on that. I think the people of Arizona probably, you know, especially with immigration, have turned on him. And you see this final poll, and maybe there'll be a poll out tomorrow with him up. But the most recent poll, which was conducted from the 2nd to the 6th of November, has Masters up 1 point in the Democrat pollster. So, you know, that is me standing by Arizona from the first video that I made, saying that why Blake Masters will win the Arizona Senate race. I'm not sure how long ago I made it, but I stand by that video. I stand by what I said. I think that the final Senate map will be 53 Republicans to 47 Democrats. Now, it could be 54-46, but I'm gonna put it at 53-47. I don't want to overestimate the Republicans' chances. I don't want to get ahead of myself in this race, but I would not be surprised if Don Boldo wins in New Hampshire. I would not be surprised. That's not to say that I didn't predict that Maggie Hassan will narrowly win, but I won't be surprised if he wins in New Hampshire, and it's 50, if it's 54-46. I think it's going to be a massive red wave tomorrow. That's what everything is looking like. Suburban women are coming out in favor of Republicans. They are voting. When you look at the Hispanic community, when you look at the Black community, they're all shifting in favor of the Republican Party for this midterm election. Now, not the majority of Black people, of course, are voting for Republicans, but there is a slight shift in that community from it being like 8% to around 12 to 15%. And that does do a difference, especially in the Rust Belt states, especially in Georgia, especially in New York with John Pinion, Hispanics in Arizona. You're going to see a massive red wave, probably 54-46. I'm going to put it at 53-47, but it could be 54-46. Now I'm going to go to my House aggregate prediction. I'm just going to go to my election prediction website, just in case you didn't know. This is my recent video, the final 2022 governor election prediction. The channel website is right at the top of the description for the channel, or not for the video description, and you can click on it and you can look at all of my predictions that I've made. It's not my most recent Senate prediction. I have to change this, but I have New Hampshire at the moment at 54. I'll probably put it at 53, but either way, you know what my final prediction was. But looking at the final House election prediction, 189 Democrats to 246 Republicans. Right now, Republicans have 222 seats. Not 222, 212 seats. I think that they're probably going to pick up about 34, 35 seats in the House of Representatives. They're going to obviously take back the majority. When you look at the RCP map, they already took back the majority in the poll in the seats that they have won. 34 toss-up races. They very well could get more than 246. They could get into the 250s. But as I said, I don't want to get ahead of myself. I think it's going to be a massive red wave, but I don't want to get ahead of myself in this prediction. I don't want to automatically say Republicans are going to get 250-plus seats. That would be, you know, very impressive for the Republicans. I'm going to put it at 246 to 189. So still a massive gain in the House of Representatives, plus 34 seats. But that's my final prediction for the House. When you look in Republican category, they already have 227. You need 218 for a majority in the RCP map, at least, to the Democrats 174. But yeah, I see them obviously retaking the House of Representatives and the Senate. So going into 2024, as soon as the results come in tomorrow, the 2024 presidential election race will begin. Ron DeSantis versus Trump in the primary. That's going to be an interesting thing to play out. I'm not sure if DeSantis is going to run, but I'm certainly going to be watching that and covering that and making videos on that. The Democrat primary is definitely going to be interesting. Is Joe Biden going to run again right after tomorrow, right after the final results are called, whether it be early morning on Wednesday or late night Tuesday? The 2024 presidential race begins. Keep that in mind. That's my House prediction. That is my final Senate prediction. Let me know your thoughts in the comments about my final Senate prediction, about my final House prediction, about my final governor prediction with the video I made earlier. I'm so intrigued to hear what you guys have to say. Thank you for watching. Comment below, as I said, your thoughts. What would you change? What would you keep the same? Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Have a great day. I will be covering the election results tomorrow, and I will talk to you all very, very soon. Thank you for watching.